All right, Show Me the Money is back. We are here doing our baseball over-unders as part of our opening day baseball podcast. Joining me today, he's done the last couple of years to do the over-unders here. A big baseball fan, legal correspondent Phil Fraietta is here. Phil, how are you?
Hey, Mike, I'm good. I look forward to doing this every year. This is one of the most fun, probably the most fun segment we do every year, I think. And I'm happy we get to do it because a few weeks ago, as we talked about a lot on this podcast, I wasn't sure if we'd be doing this. So I'm happy we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about this originally, I said, "Oh, see you in June," when they blew past the opening day. But cooler heads prevailed. We got a deal done, and now I feel like the lockout situation. It's good. We're not going to talk about it for 5 years, but I do think that I'm worried about what happens after this deal expires too.
Yeah, 4 years from now, 3.5 years from now, we'll probably start having some problems. But for now, we got baseball, so ready to jump in.
Yeah, I am ready to jump in too. I do think it was good that they managed to save all 162 games. They had the series tacked on at the end of the year. So for the Mets case, that's the Washington series. The Yankees case, it's the Astro series. Or whichever one was the 4 game series of the Yankees. I don't know if it was Astros at Texas. The other one's basically made up of double headers throughout the year. So that was a pretty clean way to just handle that first week they missed.
Yeah, that was clearly the right thing to do. It pushes the World Series back a little bit, but it's not pushing it back to the point of absurdity. So I
Yeah.
think it's fine.
Yeah, and I think the Yankee one, I think it's unfortunate for them because they have the Texas trip the first week of the season. That's gonna be a lot of extra trips to Texas they're gonna have to make.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but that's that's what happens based on the union thing. And the Yankees have no one to blame but themselves because their player reps still voted no on the new deal. So
Hey, my team is right there with them. They also voted no.
yeah, so here we are.
Yeah, and both our teams made some moves after the lockout here. The Mets built their earlier haul. They get Chris Bassett in here. They add Adam Ottavino as of recording. Yankees do the big Josh Donaldson I talked about on the podcast a couple weeks back, and they really didn't do a ton else other than that. But I do. What do you think of what these two teams did so far?
Sure. So I guess we could start with the Mets because they're probably the lower hanging fruit and the lesser of the controversial. Um, Steve Cohen flexed his muscle. I think this is what every Met fan dreamed of when they found out that Steve Cohen was going to be buying the team. He went out there. He wanted Scherzer. He got him. And from all accounts, I know this is pre-lockout, but from all accounts, the only way to get Scherzer was to basically blow him away. He didn't want to come to New York, and Cohen blew him away, so he had no choice but to say yes. So they locked him in. Bassett was a great move. That adds another. I think he's a number 2 pitcher on most teams. He's your 3. So that was great bringing him in. Yeah, I think the Mets drastically improved their team this offseason. And that's why their number, as we'll probably talk about, is up around 90 and a half.
Yeah, I think it's the same number it was last year. I think this is a better team they had last year all around.
Yeah, it's definitely better. I mean, remember they got Carrasco coming back. There's just big improvements all around. Starling Marte, forgot we haven't even mentioned him yet.
Yeah. Well, Marte, Mark Canha, Eduardo Escobar, good pickups. And fun fact for the Met fans, I know a lot of Met fans are a little disgruntled at the fact that they didn't add one more big bat. Got to the Phillies, added Nick Castellanos, and the Braves got Matt Olson to replace Freddie Freeman here. 4 of the 5 stars in that rotation and made the All-Star team last year. And the 5th is Cookie Carrasco. So that tells you the state of the rotation is pretty good.
The Mets have a very good looking team on paper. Obviously, health is gonna be a big one for them. Is DeGrom healthy? Is Scherzer on the decline? Was Walker a 1-year wonder? These are questions that we're gonna find out. But when you look at them top to bottom, they look like a division winner team.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll be jousting with the Braves all year for that NL East crown. On the Yankee side, I said to you off here, I said on the podcast too, I didn't really understand the rationale of the Donaldson move in terms of being like, this is the move of the Yankee offseason. I thought if you partner with something else, I'm okay with it. But the something else being Anthony Rizzo for me is not enough.
So I'm a little less pessimistic, but not completely. If you remember, I came on this podcast after the season was over, and I said that the Yankees needed to make some serious wholesale changes. That they needed to go away from these baby bombers. It had failed, and I wanted the manager out. So what they do, they gave the manager a 3-year extension. So that made me upset. And I agree that a trade for Donaldson was a strange one because payroll wise, it wasn't a whole lot better than going out and bringing in a guy like Correa. And he's not as good as a guy like Correa. But that said, what I do like about what the Yankees did in the offseason is I like that they embraced what appears to be a wholesale and significant change of the team. So Clint Frazier is gone. Gary Sanchez is gone. Gio Urshela is gone. Gleyber Torres by no means has a guaranteed starting spot on this team anymore. So when you look at that from a top to bottom way of looking at it, it's a pretty substantial roster overhaul that the Yankees made by making that deal. They improved their defense up the middle with the shortstop and the catcher. And they had some more left-handed bats. The catcher that they brought in is a left-handed hitter. You brought Rizzo back. You still have Gallo for all his flaws. He can do some things very well. So I think they improved the team overall. But I agree that another move would have been what I was looking for. Now I do know that Manaea, however you pronounce his name, from Oakland is still the lefty, is still rumored to be out there, and the Yankees are involved in those talks. So if you can make a move like that, bring in another pitcher, that improves the team. But the Yankees, they can pitch. They have a pretty good staff. It's just going to come down to, do you get Judge and Stanton on the field again as much as you did last year, which is a big question mark? And if you do, which of the supporting cast guys is going to step up? Is DJ going to come back? Is Rizzo going to have a big year? Is Donaldson going to have a big year? That's going to be the key for the Yankees.
Yeah, I think for what the money they did spend, I get what they were going for with the defense. I get what they were going for with Donaldson, bringing the different attitude to that clubhouse, which seemed a little too loosey-goosey last year in terms of like, we don't really care if we lose or not. And Donaldson's not that kind of guy. My thing is, you know what? You're going to spend that kind of money. Like, I don't get why they don't just go give them Correa the contract he got from the Twins, where you have high average annual salary. He has the opt-outs built in. And then if you're worried about blocking Anthony Volpe, Correa comes in, has a fantastic year. He does irritate the culture of it like Donaldson would too. He's younger, he's a better player, and then if he's great, he opts out. You can either re-sign him and put him in a different position, or you keep him and let him go and figure it out. I just don't see why that didn't make sense.
I would have been fine with that, but the flip side of that move is now Gary's gone, Gio's gone, and I think those are material, especially Gary. I think that Sanchez's time with the Yankees, it was time to go. He had become a toxic player. And, he just, how many more playoff series are we going to watch where Gary Sanchez strikes out 3 times and has 4 pass balls? And it got to the point where I think they had to move on. So what I would have done, I would have just non-tendered him and gone out and signed Correa. But that's not the route they went. I agree, it's a little puzzling, but I don't think it's a total disaster either. I think the Yankees are, as I heard JJ say this on his podcast, and I agree, I think they are slightly better than they were at the end of last season. Probably not good enough to win the title, but they're better.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. They're in their division here, but they have one other variable removed. We're recording about 2 weeks before opening day here, and the much ballyhooed vaccine mandate that's in keeping Kyrie Irving out of net games due to the fact that he's employed by a private business, that the New York City is now apparently going to lift that for the sports teams. So the entertainers and the athletes are going to be exempt from this. So that's a big worry that both these teams are going to have to deal with. Now it's going to be off the table, presumably.
Assuming that is, I know it's been reported. I don't think it's been confirmed by the city yet, but assuming that that actually does happen, that's huge for the Yankees. Obviously, there's rumors about Aaron Judge and Anthony Rizzo. I don't know of anybody on the Mets of that kind of stature who has those kind of allegations about them, but I'm sure there's somebody on that team who isn't vaccinated. So it's big for both teams. From a legal perspective, and I know this isn't a legal segment, doesn't make much sense to me how you can carve out professional sport teams as the category of employer who's not subject to this when everybody else is. So I think that this is going to result in a flood of litigation against the city. And this may signal the end of this mandate altogether, but that's neither here nor there. And it's not the purpose of this segment. So for the purposes of this segment, yeah, it takes out a big question mark about the Yankees and the Mets. And I haven't seen, Mike, but have you seen any movement in the numbers for the Yankees and the Mets as far as the Vegas lines go because of this?
I have not. I looked after the news came out. In terms of the win-loss totals, they've stayed pretty much the same. So I haven't looked at the actual like odd movement for the like futures in terms of winning a division, winning a title. But I know that the Mets are probably have been one of the more popular bets. I know they were plus 1,000 earlier to win the World Series. There have been a lot of people getting on them.
Yeah, I'm curious if it did change the number at all. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I would think that it did, unless it was baked in on the Vegas sides. Although one thing that we didn't mention and we should mention with respect to the Yankees is that they have a whole different issue, which is that they're in the same division as the Blue Jays. And the Canadian government has from no indication that they are going to lift their vaccine rules. So any unvaccinated member of a visiting team is not allowed in the country of Canada.
You're without the quarantine.
Right, without a quarantine, which means no playing. So the Yankees play, I believe it's 9 games up in Tampa, or in Toronto, rather. So that's 9 games against probably the best team in the division. That if the allegations are true, you don't have Judge and Rizzo. So that it's got to hurt the Yankee number.
Yeah, it's definitely got to hurt a little bit. I also will point out here the Met thing is big for them also because last year, in case you forgot, they were not one of those teams that did not reach the 85% tier 1 threshold to get the loosened COVID protocols from the league. And there was actually pointed out that a lot of it was due to players not taking it. And there were rumors that about half the team was not vaccinated last year. And I know they changed out some bodies and some guys sure did get vaccinated in the offseason. Maybe they didn't want to do it during the season, but not having to worry about that is huge.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the schedule. Do the Mets have to go to Toronto this year?
They do not.
All right, so then they don't have to worry about it at all. I don't believe anybody else has it. I think even San Francisco let up on this. So,
yeah, I think
yeah,
the only way the Mets have to worry about is if the COVID is still an issue in October and they're playing the World Series. I hope we're having that discussion because that would be a very fun spot for me.
yeah. I guess if they're going to Toronto for the World Series, or if something with the pandemic happens, it's unexpected, and New York or one of these other blue cities reinstitutes some sort of restriction.
Yeah, and we're gonna go now. We're gonna go to the over-unders here. We are going to go off of the DraftKings numbers here for Vegas totals. Last year we ended up in a tie. We both went 4-2, so we had very good years last year. So I'm gonna, as the guest, I'll let you pick the order here. Do you want to go first this year or second and third? It's gonna be a snake after that.
I think I took the second and third last year, so I'm going to stick with that.
All right, so I'm gonna go up first here with my first pick. I'm trying to look at the board, see what I really like in terms of this one. And I think to me, I'm gonna jump on an under first. Give me the Cincinnati Reds under 74.5 wins. Because to me, I look at what they've done. They basically stripped that team apart. They dumped Jesse Winker was an all-star in the Mariners to get rid of Eugenio Suarez's money. They let Wade Miley go on a waiver claim for nothing. They have been slashing salary left and right. They trade Sonny Gray. The Twins, they got basically nothing in return. I think numbers too. I think it's a very bad baseball team. I think the division is a little better than we think. I mean, the Cubs are actually trying to semi-rebuild. The Cardinals and the Brewers are good. The Pirates stink, but the National League is very tough. 74.5 wins is, I think, a bit too high. I'm going to take the under on that one.
You don't have to convince me. I think if you go over the historical numbers, I've always picked against Cincinnati. I think they've been an overrated team for the past few years, and now they essentially dumped their entire roster for salary purposes. So I think that's a good pick, and that was on my list of potential options.
All right, so you're up now. Where are you going with your first pick?
So first pick I'm going to do is I am going to go over on the 85.5 for the Giants. I think I went under on the Giants last year, and that bit me pretty bad. But this is a team that won 107 games last year, and I understand that some of that looked like it was done with smoke and mirrors. But to go from 107 to 85, that's a big drop in a year. So I'm confident that I can get the Giants over the 85.5. Maybe they win 90 games or something like in that range, but that means I win comfortably. So give me the Giants.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one too. It's a good value play because again, like you're banking 18 games of regression in there, and that seems like a big overcorrection. I know they did lose Kevin Gauss. I know they did lose Chris Bryant for agency, but they did a good job retaining that core, and they do have a very analytically savvy staff. So I'm sure they made some strong pickups here. I would not be shocked if made an 88 win team instead of a 108 win team, and you still win the over, but they don't make the playoffs.
That's my thinking there. It's a big drop. It's just a really, really big drop. Second pick, I am gonna go with an under. Give me it's pretty much an annual pick on this podcast, but give me the Baltimore Orioles under on the 62.5. The Orioles have done basically nothing to improve from last year. Last year, they only won 52 games. I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to have a 10-game jump in the division that, as you've mentioned, is highly competitive. Last year, 4 of those teams won more than 90 games, and all 4 of them are, if they're any worse, it's not a lot worse. And I think Toronto's substantially better than they were last year. So give me Baltimore under 62.5.
Yeah, it's another one I was very high on too, because again, the Orioles, like there are pieces coming. They have the catcher Adley Rutschman, they have Grayson Rodriguez, another big prospect supposed to come up this year. But even those 3 guys come are amazing. This team still has way too many holes to contend that division and deal with 19 games each against the Red Sox, Rays, Yankees, and Blue Jays. That's a lot of losses you're piling in there.
Yeah, agreed. And you know, say what you want about the Yankees, and there's reasons to criticize them, but they do have a team that is built to just absolutely mash a team like the Orioles, and so are the Red Sox for that matter. So that's what I think is going to happen. I expect the Red Sox to just get, and the Orioles rather, to just get beat up by teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yeah, I'm going to take my first over here. I'm going to take the Mariners over 83.5. And I think this team was a game away from the playoffs last year. They should have got in the last week of the season. They had a big loss to Oakland in the second last game of the season. Could have forced a wild series of tiebreakers in that case. They made some good moves in the offseason. I mean, they bring in Robbie Ray. They bring in the trade from the Reds to get Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez to bolster that roster. And I think the AL West has definitely gotten a lot worse. The Astros got worse. The A's basically ripped the team to the studs. They don't buy the Angels here. I think that's a very low bar for the Mariners to clear. And that's, again, about 6 wins worse than last year. And I think they're a better team.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pick. The Mariners are one of those sneaky teams. A lot of people would be surprised to know that they won 90 games last year, but they did. They were in it until the last weekend of the year, like you said. So I can see them 83.5. All you're really asking for is that they're competitive, and I can see that.
Yeah, again, I think even if they do what they did last year, I'm still winning the bet. And I think the division is a much better path for them than it was last year.
Agreed.
All right, you're up now. Where are you going with your next pick?
Let me go with another over. I want to go over on the Detroit Tigers. The number I've got them listed at is 77.5. The Tigers won 77 games last year. They have a young bunch of players and up and coming young stars. All I need them to do is be better than they were last year. I think I can get that. So give me over on the Tigers.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair bet. Plus, they do bring the splash, bring Javi Baez in the offseason to play shortstop for them. And you figure, you might see Spencer Torkelson this year. You have a lot of young pitching and get better. The Tigers are a fun team to watch this year.
Yeah, I think they're on the up. They're on the up and up. I'm not sure if this is the year that they make that leap, but they're an improving team. And 77.5 is not a huge number. I just need them to be a competitive team.
All right. I'm up now. I'm gonna take another over here. I'm gonna jump on the Mets over the 19.5 wins because I do think that the way they built this team is a lot better than it's been in the past. They have more pitching, they have better pitching depth that they do. The lineup, they made some necessary changes. Right now, there's more contact, there's less strikeouts. They can play better defensively, particularly up the middle of the field. And I know the division is tricky, but I think this is a low bar to clear. Plus, that the owner is willing to spend whatever it takes. They want to take out money during in season to get a big bat that they need or a big bullpen arm. I think there's going to be commitment to improve from the Mets. I think they get bounce backs from Lindor and some of the other offensive guys. I'll take the over in the 90.5.
The Mets were on my list for the overs too. I like it. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, I just feel like I think you and I picked them going over each of the last 4 years doing this. So I feel like this year we're due to get it right.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since they went over, but we've been picking it over and over again, and eventually I think it's going to happen.
All right.
So why not now?
All right. Next up here, you're up now. You have so far used 2 overs and 1 under.
2 overs and an under. All right. I got to search the list a little bit here, but I'm leaning towards a pick. I just want to make sure that that's the one I want to go with. Yeah, I'll do it. Give me the Guardians, as they're now called, under. So I want to go under on the Guardians, under 76.5. I just don't think Cleveland's a very good team. I took them on the under last year, and that proved to be correct. What have they done to really improve that team?
Not much.
I haven't seen much. Now, I get it, 76.5 isn't a big number. They just need to be competitive. But I got the Tigers improving. I don't think the White Sox are worse. I think Minnesota's clearly better. I think Kansas City is clearly better. I could see the Guardians being a last place team in that division. So let's go under on the Guardians.
I like that pick also because if they get off to a bad start, they're going to trade Jose Ramirez at the deadline to maximize the return they can get on him. So that's another one that, if they're sitting there at 32 and 47 in June, they're going to start listening to those offers. And you're sitting there knowing if he goes, basically the whole thing just goes off the cliff at that point.
I agree.
All right. So I'm up now here. I have used so far 2 overs and 1 under. I'm going to go back to the under pile here. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Angels under 83.5. And I do feel like this is one that every year everybody wants to buy in on the Angels. But to me, I haven't seen what they still haven't fixed their pitching. And their pitching has been a big issue for years now. And I'm looking at right now at the starting rotation. I mean, the big move, yes, they had Shohei Ohtani here. They brought in Noah Syndergaard and Michael Lorenzen as their 2 big moves for the starting rotation here. That's not good enough, in my opinion. And I think you have now injury concerns with Rendon has missed time. Trout's going off a very lost year. Ohtani can he do the same thing on both offense and pitching again? I don't know. I think people are a little bullish on the Indians. They want to see Trout and Ohtani in the playoffs. I just don't see it. I think they're going to go under this number.
I completely agree with you. I have nothing to add. Completely agree. The Angels are a team that every single year everybody wants to go over on, and you're right. It's Ohtani, it's Trout. We want to see them be good. They're just not a good team. They're a mediocre team, and the reason why is they can't pitch.
Yeah, I have the rotation on right now in front of me heading into this. Right now, the rotation is Shohei Ohtani, Noah Syndergaard, Patrick Sandoval, Jose Suarez, and Michael Lorenzen. I don't care what division you're in. That's not a playoff rotation.
No, absolutely not. And this is not to take anything away from Shohei Ohtani, who deserves nothing but praise. But the guy, he did throw 130 innings last year. I'm looking at it now, 130 innings. So he's not a true ace unless they're going to increase his workload such that he's throwing 200 innings. But I don't expect that because you've also got the guy as the DH, and other than Trout, he's the best hitter on the team. So you're not taking him out of the lineup. So I agree. I just don't see it.
Yeah, especially because if they're committed to pitching every 6 day to preserve his arm, he's not going to get as much impact out of it on the mound as you would probably need to beat this number.
Yeah, I agree. Unless Noah Syndergaard's going back to the Cy Young caliber pitcher he was with the Mets, I don't see it.
All right, you are up now. So far we have you each used 2 overs, 2 unders. You have one left of each.
All right, I'm going to go with I think a surprising over. And I'm going to go, and I'm a little hesitant about it, but I'm still going to do it. Dodgers, 97.5. I'm going to go over. And I know that 97.5 is a huge number, but this is a team that wins 105 games every single year. And I have no reason to believe that the Dodgers are any worse this year than they've been the last few years. They've brought in Freddie Freeman. I think there's not much more to add when it comes to a team like the Dodgers. They're a team of superstars. I think the Dodgers are going to go over that number.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing I would be concerned about the Dodgers is the back of the rotation because I mean they do have Bueller and Urias on top. Kershaw is back; he's had injury issues. Trevor Bauer's on suspension and definitely you figure he's not going to be on the team at some point. Andrew Heaney's in there right now as their fifth star, which is as a Yankee that's not great. Like I don't know if I trust the number to go because it's a very very high bar to clear.
It's a big number and it scares me a little bit, but the track record speaks for itself. This team just continues to win 100 games. So I'm going to bet that they can do it again.
Yeah, and you look at the everyday lineup they have here. I mean, you have Will Smith behind the plate, Freeman, Chris Taylor, Justin Turner, Trey Turner, Pollock, Bellinger, Betts, Max Muncy. That's your starting nine. That's pretty damn good.
No, I don't think anybody has got a better lineup in baseball.
I don't think so. Toronto's close.
Toronto's close, and they're just hitters all over the place. It's hard for me to say this team can't win 100 games again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go now. I still have to try and decide if I want to take my last under here or go with the last over. I think I'm gonna take the over because I only the marinate on the under here. I'm gonna take the Blue Jays over 92.5 wins. I think it's Toronto's division to lose, to be honest with you. I feel like the moves they made in the offseason, the trade for Matt Chapman was a smooth move. I like that they did with Kikuchi as a fourth starter. They extend Barrios. Now he's there for a full year. They get Gausman over. They did lose some big guys. They lost the Cy Young winner, Rob Ray. They lost Marcus Simeon. But as a whole, that team is pretty scary. And I think even with the lower division, I think they are talented enough. They're going to win like 95 games at least and win the AL East.
Well, that's the Vegas pick. DraftKings right now has got them at plus 185 to win the division. The Yankees are at 195, so can't argue against you. Sure, I could certainly see Toronto going over that number. I think that's a division that I've tried to stay away from because there's just so much. With the exception of the Orioles, we know they'll be bad, but the other four teams, I could see them winning anywhere from 85 to 100 games, any four of them. So it's just it becomes a little bit of a scary situation because they beat each other. They catch each other in a bad week, and all of a sudden the Blue Jays lost 7 games in a row, something like that. But I agree that they're the favorite to win the division, and so are the line makers. So I get where your head is with that pick.
Plus, the other thing I like in my favor with picking them as an over here is that with the vaccination rules in Canada, there's plenty of teams rolling in there down a key guy or two who are not vaccinated, and that's going to be plays the Blue Jays benefit at these home games.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage. Although, have we found out, are there any players on the Blue Jays who may have a problem because of this rule?
As far as I'm aware of, I don't think they're going to have. I think they built their roster knowing what they had to deal with.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see, but yeah, that is a bit of a additional home field advantage, you could say. So
yeah, because I mean, we heard that Xander Bogaerts got vaccinated just to make sure he could play in those games, and we don't know if any of the unvaccinated Yankees have made that decision yet.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But it is a bit of a home field advantage, and there's certainly going to be somebody on every team who comes in who's not vaccinated.
All right, absolutely. You have one pick left. It is an under. So what are you going to do with the under?
I mean, a lot of stuff's off the board here, so there's nothing that I'm crazy about. But yeah, let me do it. Let me go under on the Texas Rangers in the 74.5. I mean, the Rangers won 60 games last year. They're not a very good team. I know that they had the active offseason. I know they brought in Seager. I know they brought in was Simeon also, right?
Yeah, and John Gray on the mound.
John Gray. I know they made a lot of moves, but is it enough for them to be competitive in a division that still has a good Houston team, a good Seattle team, a bad Oakland team, and the Angels? While I agree with you that they're an under, I don't think they're a bad team. The Angels are usually a team who's going to hover around 500. So with a division like that, can the Texas Rangers improve by 15 wins? I'm not sure. So give me Rangers on the under.
Yeah, it's a good point because I know they got significantly better. There might be 10 wins better, but 15 wins better is definitely a huge bar to clear.
Yeah, it's a big bar. And look, Seager, great player. He's hurt a lot. Um, so maybe he gets injured. Marcus Simeon, who's the real Marcus Simeon? Is he the guy we saw in Toronto, or is he the guy who we saw in Oakland? Because they're drastically different players.
Yeah, they
So
are.
let's find out those things out. So that's my logic there. Again, it's not my favorite pick. That's why it's my last pick. But that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I think for my last pick here, I'm going to go to the National League East. I'm going to take the Washington Nationals under 71.5 wins. And this is a team that's clearly in the middle of rebuild. Yes, they have one of the five best players in the sport in Juan Soto, but they did strip down a lot last year. They lost even more guys. Ryan Zimmerman retired. I don't see where this roster gets better because Nelson Cruz, I mean, they signed him for a year because they basically trade fodder once the deadline hits, and he's going to go to the next possible bidder. They play in the same division as the Mets, as the Phillies, as the defending champion Braves. Yeah, the Marlins in there were not pushovers, have a great rotation. I think they could pop a lot of losses in the division. 71.5 is not a, I know it's a low bar to clear, but I don't think they're going to clear. I think this is about like a 66, 67 win team.
Yeah, that tracks. The Nationals are not a very good team. You're right. Juan Soto is one of the best players in the sport, but I'm sorry, Juan. He walked 145 times last year. He may walk more than that this year. Nobody's pitching a Juan Soto.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance if there's a man on first base and Juan Soto can beat Juan Soto getting walked every single time.
It's pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just nobody there. I don't even know who their next best hitter is behind Soto. Is it Josh Bell? Is he still there?
Yeah, Josh Bell's still there.
Yeah, I mean, okay, he's a solid hitter. That's about it. So yeah, there's not much there that you'd be worried about, and then there's also the pitching. I mean, with Scherzer out of there, I don't love the pitching. Is Patrick Corbin? Who's he? Is he the guy we've seen the last year and a half, or is he the guy they had in 2019? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm looking at their roster right now. I mean, the pitching wise, you have Strasburg there, but Strasburg, they said that they're bringing him along slowly. They don't want to race him into the season. Josiah Gray, they got from the Dodgers. Corbin, Eric Fetty, and Abel Sanchez rotation, which is not great.
I can't believe Anibal Sanchez is still in the major leagues. Yeah.
Yeah, he just came back, and then your everyday position players are Keibert Ruiz. They got in the Max Scherzer trade last year. Josh Bell, Cesar Hernandez, Michael Franco, Alcides Escobar, Lane Thomas, Victor Robles, Juan Soto, and Nelson Cruz. That's a very bad baseball team.
Yep, that is a bad baseball team.
All right, so to reset the over-unders here on the list, Phil went with the Giants over 85.5, the Orioles under 62.5, an annual pick here on the podcast, the Orioles under, the Tigers over 77.5, the Guardians under 76.5, the Dodgers over 97.5, and the Rangers under 74.5. How are you feeling about that group of picks?
I like them. The last two I'm a little more queasy about, but I like the first four a lot, and I think shooting for that 4-2 again. I think that's what you always shoot for when you do this.
Yeah. I have the Reds under 74.5, the Mariners over 83.5, the Mets over 90.5, the Angels under 83.5, Toronto over 92.5, and the Nationals under 71.5. I feel pretty solid about these. I think a solid 4-2 is in play, depending on how some of these bounce.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And thanks to some legislation that was passed earlier this year, I actually intend to put some actual money down on these picks this year. I'm going to put $10 per team, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm intending to do the same as well with my picks, just to see if I can profit off any of them. And the one number we did not touch in terms of the local angle here, the Yankee number right now is 91.5 wins. Remember last year it was about 95.5. We didn't touch it. And I think it was probably smart, but I think a smart play here for us not to touch the number. I feel like that's about where they are going to end up.
I will never touch a Yankee number. And the reason why I won't touch a Yankee number is because I need to know how many games are Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton going to play. And nobody can possibly answer me that number. So that's why I won't touch them. If you tell me those two guys are going to play full seasons, I'll go over on the Yankees. But there's no reason for me to believe those guys are going to play full seasons. And so I'm going to stay away from the Yankee number. I think it's a right number, 91.5. And it does capture the kind of baseball team the Yankees have been for the past year and a half.
Yeah, this is not like where we were entering 2019, I think, or even original 2020 when they first signed Cole before the pandemic sculled the about 102 games in the season here. I think if you was done a 2020 number, I think on March 5th, that number would be probably in the high 90s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out who the Yankees are. But 2019 is a long time ago now. So the Yankees I've seen for the past year and a half have been a 91, 92 win type team. Show me that you're better than that. We'll see.
I think the key for them this year is they have to get the second place in that division, because I think even with the extra wild cards, like considering how strong the East is and how much you can beat each other up, I think it's hard for me to see a scenario where teams 3 and 4 in the East get in. Whereas you have a team in the Central like the Twins who can beat up on the Tigers and the Royals and the Guardians and get a wild card spot, and same thing in the West.
I agree. But look, with the Yankees, I was real clear about this on your podcast. I am tired of the attitude that they've accomplished anything. This team has not accomplished a thing. They've regressed significantly since 2017 and 2019 even. So if the Yankees want to show me something, go out there, forget wild cards, go win the division. Show me that you're for real. Go win the division. But to me, as I said earlier, the key to the Yankees is twofold. Do Judge and Stanton play? And if so, who else is going to step up? Because last year, the answer to that second question was nobody. It was Judge, Stanton, and nobody else. No one hit. Gallo didn't hit a lick. Sanchez didn't hit. Torres didn't hit. LeMahieu didn't hit. So on. Gio didn't hit. So on and so forth. Somebody else has got to step up. And maybe it's DJ. Maybe it's Glaber. Maybe it's Anthony Rizzo. I don't know who it is. Josh Donaldson, for that matter. Someone's got to step up along with Judge and Stanton. Because, Mike, for people who watch this podcast, it got to the point at the end of that season where if it wasn't the inning where Judge and Stanton were up, you knew they had no chance of scoring a run.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I think that obviously general health is a big deal for them, considering how many guys they have coming off of injuries or injury histories. But I'll also say here, I think the big thing to watch them is like, what does Garrett Cole look like this year without the spider attack? Because they know last year he struggled with it. He looked a little bit at the end of the year. They hurt the hamstring and had played down the stretch here. If Garrett Cole is just very good Garrett Cole, not superstar Garrett Cole, I think then the Yankees have to worry a little because their depth behind him is not great.
No, they need Garrett Cole to be the best pitcher in baseball again. He was for the first until the spider attack thing. We'll see if he can come back. You're right that I have a little confidence because before that hamstring injury, he was pitching very, very well again. Then he pulled the hammy and he struggled in the last couple of starts. And obviously we have a bad taste in our mouth because of what happened in Boston. So I'm confident that Garrett Cole can come back, but he better come back because his the taste that he left in Yankee fans' mouth was not what they paid for. And then, but they do have some other arms back there. We don't know what to make of them. Montgomery seems like a solid pitcher. What's Severino? No, who the hell knows? It's been forever since he pitched. Is Nestor Cortez for real? I like that kid Heel when he came up. He showed me a lively arm. We're gonna see more of him. You've got Devi Garcia down in the minor leagues. The Yankees have a lot of arms with a lot of arm talent, but none of those guys are really established with the exception of Cole. So you're right about that. And then in the bullpen, the Yankee bullpen is what it is. And then we have the question of, the always enigma that is Aroldis Chapman. For a while, he's the best closer in the league. Then he can't throw a strike. Then he's good again. So what are we going to get with Aroldis Chapman? Who the hell knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Fun season, Phil. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I'm looking forward to the season. April 7 can't come soon enough.